It's Mr. Hasquin, and I'm back with more things you should know by being alive. I'm going to redo some of the earlier presidents that I did earlier in the series. I look back on them, and I'm not real happy with it, so I'm going to give it a fresh take and see where we end up. So this, of course, is George Washington, and I want to start with before he was the first president. Before he was the father of our country, George Washington was a young man looking for status and adventure. He was born in 1732 in Virginia, and he came from a pretty modest planter family and worked his way into, the colonial elite society. His first big role, well, he was a 22-year-old British officer who accidentally helped spark the French and Indian War. It didn't go well. He surrendered at Fort Necessity, but it really taught him how military politics work. And by the time we get to the 1760s, he's a respected landowner, he's married to Martha Custis, and he's increasingly frustrated by British taxes and interference from the crown. And that tension really defines his future. In 1775, after Lexington and Concord, the Continental Congress chose Washington to lead the Continental Army. Why? He had military experience. He was from Virginia, an important southern colony. He had gravitas. People trusted him. He was the tallest man in the room, and he was wearing his uniform from the French and Indian War. So I believe he was sending out a message. But this isn't a polished war hero story. Washington lost more battles than he won. His genius wasn't flashy victories. It was basically keeping his armies alive, together, and fighting. He crossed the Delaware at night, endured Valley Forge, used guerrilla tactics, foreign alliances, and iron discipline to basically outlast the British. His biggest win? Yorktown, 1781, with the help of the French. It's very important. After the war, Washington did something that no victorious general had done in history. There's probably a few you could mention, like Cincinnatus of Rome, but he walked away from power. In 1783, he resigned his commission and returned home to Mount Vernon. And even King George supposedly said about Washington, if he does that, he'll be the greatest man in the world. The act of voluntary restraint, walking away from power, not becoming a king or a dictator, helped grow Washington's legend. Now, when the Constitution was ratified after the Constitutional Convention, there really was only one choice for the first president, and that was George Washington. He was elected unanimously in 1789 and again in 1792. By elected unanimously, we mean the Electoral College. There wasn't a national campaign or anything like that. It was the Electoral College that put him into office both times. As president, Washington established the cabinet, created precedents for the executive branch and executive power. He avoided entangling alliances. The Neutrality Proclamation is probably best known. He crushed the Whiskey Rebellion to show federal strength, and he oversaw the founding of the National Bank and the U.S. Mint. He hated political parties, but his cabinet that contained Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton gave birth to two political parties anyway, the Federalists and the Democrat Republicans. In 1796, Washington voluntarily stepped down after 2 terms. He walked away again. In his farewell address, he warned us about partisan divisions, the bane of party, foreign entanglements, and putting too much faith in any one person. He died in 1799, and over 200 years later, his shadow still looms over the American political system. Our capital is named after him. His birthday is a national holiday. His face is on the dollar, the quarter, and Mount Rushmore. But the real Washington was a great deal more complicated. He enslaved more than 300 people at Mount Vernon. He struggled privately with slavery, but freed only one slave in his lifetime. He valued liberty, but like many founders, that liberty didn't apply to everybody. Still, his commitment to civic virtue and civilian power and national unity gave the United States its overall foundation. George Washington didn't just lead a revolution. He showed the world that, power can be used and then given back. That's rare. That's why he matters. Like comment, share, follow for more things that you should know by being alive. Because the first president didn't just set the standard, he was the standard. Thanks for watching.